It feels like we're still in the midst of the silly season, with all these rumors going around. In today's video, we'll talk about how Hulkenberg is most probably signing up for Haas, while Mick Schumacher may be going to Mercedes as a reserve driver. We'll also talk about how Haas didn't just get lucky with its pole position in Brazil, so make sure to stay until the end of the video to learn all about it. First up, Nico Hulkenberg is all set to sign for Haas. Remember Nico Hulkenberg, folks? Yeah, the same bloke who became synonymous with Renault, who's nowhere to be seen since the end of 2020. The reason why Nico's so unforgettable is that his career was quite boring. To be honest, he had 184 Grand Prix entries with 0 wins, 0 podiums, just 1 pole, and only 97 points finish races. So it kind of became clear that he wasn't good enough for the sport, and well, he was replaced. But then, apparently, Gunther Steiner looked at his far from stellar stats and realized, this is Haas material. Maybe he has a new strategy. Magnussen's quite old, and so is Nico. So maybe he's just trying to make a mature team full of racers that don't crash so often. Anyway, the point is, Hulkenberg is quite close to agreeing to a deal with Haas for the 2023 season, replacing Mick Schumacher, and it's believed that Haas is right on the verge of signing him, thus confirming his return to the motorsport. Now, this is exciting for Haas, not so much for Mick. Moving on, how many years will his contract be? The last seat on the F1 grid is close to being announced. According to rumors, the 35-year-old is all but confirmed at Haas for the 2023 season. Oh, and on top of that, the deal is expected to be a multi-year deal, where Haas will be able to extend his contract into 2024. According to an insider from Haas, all the finer contractual details have been agreed upon. The only remaining piece of the puzzle is now the signature from Hulkenberg. Oh, and it's believed that Steiner wanted the German all the way back in 2017, but an agreement could not be reached at that time. And of course it couldn't. In 2017, he was racing for Renault. You don't leave a legacy car manufacturer for a team like Haas. We just hope and pray that this decision works out for Haas. F1's only American team has already had a really hard time, and well, if it keeps going like this, they'll need to quit the sport. And we don't want to see that, now do we? Who else will Netflix film swearing their backs off? What's more, Schumacher is now in Mercedes' frame. Mick Schumacher entered the sport with massive expectations hanging over his head. As the son of the 7-time world champion, Michael Schumacher, folks expected too much, too early. Give him a break, guys. He's only 23. But the point is, Haas was not at all happy about his performance, and apparently he cost the team quite a lot because he kept crashing. So now he's being replaced by Hulkenberg, and with the rest of the grid quite full, his chances of racing in 2023 are slim. The 23-year-old was under a lot of pressure this year. A, he failed to match his teammate Kevin Magnussen's results. B, as we mentioned, he was involved in too many big crashes. But then, we did see a mid-season upturn in his form, which caused many to expect that he's going to be staying on the grid, which is, as we know, not happening. Now, the problem is, he's likely to be forced to seek a reserve driver role for 2023 with Mercedes, and Mercedes too are quite eager to secure his services. Now for Toto confirms interest in Mick. After the Brazilian Grand Prix, Toto confirmed his team's interest in Mick Schumacher. He stated that he doesn't know what his situation is at Haas, and if he gets a race seat, that's the best possible thing for him. However, he mentioned that the Schumacher family belongs to Mercedes, and if he doesn't end up with a seat, Mercedes will be fully ready to sign him up. He also noted that he values Mick as a driver and as a person, which is exactly why he's going to be giving him that option. He then later clarified that despite his own own interest, a race seat must be his first priority because he deserves one. Previously, Mercedes were in talks with Daniel Ricciardo, but now that's not happening anymore. Apparently, the Aussie is now in talks with Red Bull over a reserve driver role. Honestly, folks, we do feel bad for him. He left Red Bull because he didn't want to be their second driver, and now there's a chance he may return as their third driver. Yikes. Daniel deserves better. We didn't get lucky. How Haas earned surprise first pole. Now, folks, let's talk about how Haas achieved the impossible. Kevin Magnussen got pole. Oh, and Mick Schumacher came dead last, thus creating a Haas sandwich. But how did Magnussen manage that? Was it pure luck, or was it a great strategy? Let's find out. First and foremost, we didn't get lucky. Kevin Magnussen's brilliant pole position at Interlagos is one of the biggest F1 shocks this year. Well, this weekend itself was full of shocks, wasn't it? Charles going from P18 to P4, Lewis coming in second, despite a crash that caused him to lose tenths over each lap, and of course, how can we forget George Russell's maiden win? But one thing stood out quite a lot: Kevin's pole. But according to Gunther Steiner, this wasn't just pure luck. So apparently, they had a game-changing move, which ensured that his car was the first car on track in Q3 when the threat of rain was imminent. And then, of course, there was the faultless execution from the man himself. And that pole was earned through other key moments as well. So no, it wasn't just given to them. Kevin himself stated that getting me out on track as the first car, that was really the game changer today, to give me that best piece of track. He also acknowledged that the car itself was super awesome this weekend. The Haas VF22 was well suited to damp but drying conditions in Q1, but Magnussen could have been eliminated just like his teammate after switching to the soft tires late. Let's not forget, Haas did flirt with disaster. The team opted for the second set of intermediates in Q1, as the eliminated Alfa Romeos did. However, Haas was able to get its drivers on softs in time to get the crucial preparation lap, and then a proper push. And then, of course, Magnussen made that work like clockwork. Let's talk about what exactly helped him secure that pole. This late switch gave him a narrow window to get his final lap in, but unlike Mick, Kevin was able to generate the tire temperature and feel the grip well enough to avoid being eliminated. When Haas reached Q3, it faced the same problem as every other team on the grid: a dry track and the threat of a prolonged downpour. While we don't exactly think that Haas got lucky, we admit that they did have a key advantage. They were last place in the pit lane, and thus the closest to the exit. They then used that to anchor a position at the head of the queue. Now, the dilemma was clear. You either risk going out on dry or go out on intermediates, thus losing time to folks who were on slicks. Haas decided that they'll go out on the slicks. This ensured that Kevin could just crack on, which he did quite aggressively. And unlike Max Verstappen behind, Magnussen didn't make any mistakes. And yes, some people claim that Haas got lucky, but they didn't. The team just did a good job and used their location on the pit lane as a position, thus ensuring an awesome lap. They could have waited for the rest. They could have waited to see what the others were doing, but they didn't. They made a call, and it worked super well for the team. Finishing up, there was a little bit of luck. Yeah, folks, we know. We've been talking quite a lot about how luck wasn't involved, but there was a small, minor fortune that did help the Dutchmen. First, the timing of the rain really helped them. Second, George Russell went off into the gravel, triggering a red flag. That combination prevented any further improvements from the rest of the grid. Magnussen also credited his team for this feat. He stated that he and his team had perfect communication, and they made the right calls in terms of managing risk. Rain might not be quite the great leveler that the F1 cliche makes it out to be, but to be honest, it did help out Magnussen. However, he got the pole on Friday. On Saturday, he dropped dropped to 8th place, which is fine, not that bad. The real sad bit comes on Sunday, when just at the start of the race, Daniel Ricciardo crashed into K-Mag, thus retiring him. And just like that, he went from a pole to a no points finish. And that's all the time we have for this video. What do you guys think? Do you guys think K-Mag's pole was just pure luck? Let us know in the comments below. As always, leave a like and hit that subscribe button to see more of our content. And we'll see you in the next one.
But not as well as Charles Leclerc on the inside. Esteban